start. Okay, welcome back, guys. Welcome back to our channel. We have our guest here, Alex from Zimbabwe. Alex, nice to meet you in person, Alex.
Nice to meet you too, eh? It's been a long time waiting.
Yes, exactly. I mean, before I'm gonna start with the video, can you tell me a bit more about yourself and how you get into Bitcoin rabbit hole for the first time?
Okay, so my name is Alexiandria. I'm from Zimbabwe, and in Zimbabwe we've suffered from about 2 hyperinflations. So I've kind of my whole life I've seen the negative effects of the fiat system, and I was looking for a way to protect my currencies basically, because every Zimbabwean, as soon as they get their local currency, they want to convert it into what you call it into US dollars, or they wanted to convert it into other forms of storage as well. So either US dollars or gold or anything better. So at first I thought gold was the best solution. Then I was like, okay, gold doesn't really perform that well. And I went to stocks. I went to the stock market, and stock market actually performed quite well. And then there was one asset that was doing better than anything else, and that was Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, it was performing very well. So I started to let me start reading on Bitcoin myself, and I fell in love with it. I fell in the rabbit hole of Bitcoin. So yeah, that's how I came across Bitcoin. And then now learning about Bitcoin, we ran into a guy called Lucas, where we run a global show called Global Bitcoin Fest. I believe you met him, right? Yeah, and in that show, so in this space, we interview groups from all over the world. It started in El Salvador, and we've done Mexico, Brazil, Venezuela, Guatemala, almost most countries right now. And it's very interesting to understand what people are doing differently in each community. And I believe it's quite different and quite unique, because most people are doing podcasts, but they're just doing political issues. They're not really interviewing people, local people in the areas. And through our space, I believe people can actually connect with one another. They can find where the communities, where people are doing these big meetings, what people are doing in the country to promote adoption, to promote Bitcoin mining or Bitcoin projects and stuff. And yeah, it's quite interesting that way.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's the your journey in the Bitcoin, right? I mean, what was your aha moment? I mean, like, oh, Bitcoin is here to stay, and then it's not going anywhere. I mean, like since 2017 or 2018, because there's a bubble back then.
Sorry, could you repeat that again?
Yeah, what was the aha moment? Aha moment, Bitcoin aha moment, that you say that Bitcoin is not going anywhere.
Yeah, like at first when you come from a value investing point of view, you listen to Warren Buffett, and Warren Buffett is like, Bitcoin is bad poison, and so you kind of cross it off your mind. Until I listened to, I believe, someone called Navar, and he talked about how the asymmetric return on Bitcoin is significantly higher. I believe, people say when it comes to Bitcoin, you come from the profits, and then you stay for the sound money. So at first it was that realizing that Bitcoin is so undervalued. Bitcoin has a market cap by now is around maybe $500 billion, but its intrinsic value, what we believe that Bitcoin is eventually going to be worth, is around $300 billion. So it's extremely discounted to any other investment. There isn't any other investment that offers you this much of a return in Bitcoin. And then I believe also just what it does, the sound money principle is very, very important, because coming from a country where I'm from, where we've suffered the worst hyperinflation in our century, in our decade actually, in Zimbabwe, our currency went up to about $1 gazillion, $100 gazillion. I mean, we went up to $100 trillion, and we had like wheelbarrows basically of money, and we're experiencing the second hyperinflation again. So, from my point of view, I understood why and how bad hyperinflation is to the economy. And even if you look at our country, Zimbabwe right now, people are earning as little as $10 a day, for entire months worth of work, and the income inequality is very different. So let me give you an example. If someone's earning $10 a day a month in Zimbabwe, that totals to maybe around 120 US dollars in a year. While the average income in America is around $50,000, $54,000. And people still say, you making that much money in America. That's an average income. So you can see there's a significant disparity or imbalance of wealth that's been created. And the reason why it's been created is because of sanctions, but we can go into that topic later on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like, you understand the holistic view about Bitcoin, but your first time involved in this industry, I mean, you got into the shitcoin as well, or you just know the Bitcoin is the only hope, or just the other is just shit? I don't know. It just why do you like? Understand fully about Bitcoin? Because from my experience, honestly, got into shitcoin and I learned my lesson, and then that's why I got into Bitcoin only. And why you like understand fully from the beginning? I mean, I know maybe you joined it for a couple of years, but what was the reasoning for that? I mean, I just curious because I just feel like jealous sometimes, right?
Yes. So the reason why I'm also Bitcoin only is because my country, again, comes back to my country's fundamentals that, Zimbabwe is dictatorship, and they believe in a command economy approach, right? So the kind of command economy approach is they nationalize about 107 industries, right? And these industries are losing about $300 million a year, and they owe about $3 billion. They have extremely failed, and I've seen centralization where you have one person making decisions for the entire economy, and it is failing. There's a 95% unemployment. So when people talked about how decentralization was very important, that's what really got me involved. It's like, okay, Bitcoin is decentralization. What does decentralization mean? It means don't trust verify, but also no one is in control of the monetary system, right? Because in Zimbabwe or even in the US dollar, right, you have the reason why this US dollar is failing and all fiat currencies are failing is because it's a centralized system where you have 12 individuals making economic decisions, controlling the monetary supply, right, for the entire world, for 70% of the world's trade, and you have to believe that these people will act in your interest, and they never do, because the incentive to dilute your wealth and to increase their wealth is too strong. So in Zimbabwe, we also have a centralized system. We also have a central bank, and that central bank is run by the governments, exactly. So when I saw my country fail completely twice, right? Let me just explain how bad this is. In 2008, you would wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning, and then you'll go and queue in the line to only get $2 a day that you're supposed to feed yourself for, only $2 a day from the bank, because they restrict the amount of capital you can get from the bank, right? And even today, you have to wake up every day and you have to queue for your own money, not for the government's money, for your own money that you worked for, right? So, and the reason why they're doing this is because they're trying to prevent inflation, something that they themselves caused. So for me, it was like seeing how bad the bad effects of whenever there's a centralized currency. You get to see that. I got to see firsthand, and I was like, okay, no way will I ever support another system that supports centralization, whether it's Ethereum or Cardano or Ripple or any other shitcoin, because centralization never works at the end of the day. And any currency that's inflation, and you have a group of individuals controlling the monetary system, is always going to fail. And we've seen it firsthand, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I agree with you. All the coins other than Bitcoin is centralized politically. You can change the rule, the game or the rule. So it's not really decentralized in many ways. So I understand your point of view. Is if you adopt like shitcoin or something like that, it's just roll back the time, right? I mean, it's just doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting the deliberate result. I mean, it's kind of stupidity that we try to face in the future. Yeah, I agree with you. You know, yeah. I mean, switching gears a bit. I mean, yeah. How did you meet Lucas or something from Bitcoin, Global Bitcoin Fest? I mean, I know you said that before, right? You made Lucas on the Global Bitcoin Fest. What was like? I mean, like, what was the history?
Okay, so yeah, so you know, I joined into Bitcoin, and you know, actually investing is kind of a lonely game. You know, investing itself, you know, when you're an investor, you kind of doing it from home. You're not working with anyone else. And listening to podcasts, I heard that investors always used to talk on Twitter. So I go into Twitter, and this is when I'm also now getting into Bitcoin. And I realized that like there's this massive Bitcoin community on Twitter. And you know, Bitcoin is not like any other investments. You know, if you invest into cannabis or cruise lines or airlines or whatever company you're investing in, you really by yourself. The community doesn't really care for you, right? But the Bitcoin community, there's so much love on that in the Bitcoin Twitter space. So you get on Bitcoin Twitter, you first read all the chats and you follow all the big celebrities, and then you can also join these spaces. And when I was just joining, I think it was like 2 a.m. in the morning, I couldn't sleep. I'm like, let me join the space, and it was one of Lucas's space. You know, pretty amazing. I believe it was one of the Global Bitcoin Fest where they're always giving on money. And I guess he allowed me to speak about Zimbabwe and what's kind of going on in my country and stuff. And then he was like, you know what, if you want to talk about your country, you should link up and we can keep talking about it. And that's when I joined Global Bitcoin Fest. It's just a group of players who come together almost every week, and we talk about new token different communities. And I was like more than happy because you know you want to be in a community where people understand what you are, because you know if you're a Bitcoiner outside in this world, people are going to look at you like you're crazy. You know, yeah, you're talking about centralization, you're talking about fiat currencies, you're talking about governments being bad, libertarianism. A lot of people don't understand that, and they look at you as you're boring and you're kind of annoying. But when you go on Twitter, you're with your family, you're with people who really care about you, who also are trying to push the world in a better direction. You know? Because, like in my country, we live in a dictatorship, and most of my friends right now, you know, they're joining the dictatorship because they see it as the only way out. And you know, this dictatorship is so bad. Like, so many people are getting killed, and you try to explain to them why they are wrong, and they have this empathy. They're empathetic. You know, they don't care. They don't care. And you explain to them, okay, listen, but people are dying. There's human rights abuses being happening, and you try to explain to them that if you support the system, you're the only reason why humanity won't push forward, right? But Bitcoin Twitter, you know, you can go on the platform and you can talk about these issues, and everybody understands you, and they're all trying to push the same message on decentralization, small governments, no government interfering in social planning and stuff. And yeah, so I mean that's how I made Lucas and Global Bitcoin Fest. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. I mean, like, you know, Michael Saylor once said, Bitcoin is for everyone. I mean, yeah, regardless of your background, regardless of your education, I think once you have like community and you talk to like in the Bitcoin Twitter space, I think you get a lot of insight and a lot of education. So that's why the engagement is really matters to this day. That's why I don't really agree with someone who say that, oh, you need to go to college or you need to go to master degree to understand this industry. You don't have to do that, right? Once you like understand it from the community, it's just the whole view. You don't really need to understand in details, right? So yeah, that's why I agree with you. And when the community is engaging from one another, that's why it makes the community stronger and stronger.
It does. Like,
yeah, I mean, like in Africa. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I know you can speak. You can speak.
No, I'm just curious. I mean, like you said before, you mentioned a lot about the government and the political system. Yes, I don't know what happens in there. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit more and explain a bit more in your situation in the country. I know. I mean, like you have like a $1 bill is like 1 million, 10 million dollar Zimbabwe, right? So I don't know. There is some dictator in there, like Robert Mugabe, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah.
The
Oh
name?
yes. So yeah, the political system in Zimbabwe, it's okay. So like, let me actually tell you. So in the beginning, like before 1980, we lived in a were colonized basically, and we were treated very poorly. It was about 6% of the 6% of the well, let me just say the white people owned 80% of the wealth, right? And we weren't allowed any freedoms, any form of democracy. So we had to fight for our liberation, right? The problem is the people who fought for our liberation and the way we like the people who funded our liberation struggle was communism. So there was ZAPU and ZANU. ZAPU was funded by Russians and ZANU was funded by Chinese. Okay, so from there you can kind of really see that we're already kind of going into communism, right? So yeah, we fight for our liberations. We finally get it in 1980, and in the 1980, the leader Robert Mugabe gets in charge, right? When he now becomes the president, he becomes president for 40 years practically. The only way Robert Mugabe actually leaves power is through a military coup. Okay, but during his reign, you know, we suffer from hyperinflation, 95% unemployment. That's the highest unemployment in the world. You know, I mean, America's crying about 5% unemployment. America's around 5%. Huh? We've got the exact opposite, 95% unemployment. Yeah. Unemployment in the youth department between 18 to 36 is around 76 unemployed. What you could, I believe, did they say about 50%, no, 80% of Zimbabweans live in poverty. You know, most teachers, most civil servants earn around $40 to $100, but the cost of living is about 100. I mean, it's 500 US dollars. So the cost of living is not covered at all in Zimbabwe, right? And what isn't happening is that we always every term, every school term, or every quarter, we see a series of strikes. Teachers are going on strikes. Soldiers are threatening to go on strikes. The people, civil servants like who work for electricity companies are threatening to go on strikes, you know, because people honestly can't live earning so little. And the reason why they're earning so little was because of inflation, right? In 2008, we suffered from hyperinflation. Almost most people lost their entire life savings, right, overnight. And then we dollarize, and then we go back to having another Zimbabwean currency called the RTG. The RTG, again, suffers from about 800% inflation. So people's wages went from $500 US dollars to about $40 US dollars, right? Over a few months, you know. And what ends up happening is that even like when you look at even people who get pensions, they earn about $60, and old people end up dying because they cannot afford to buy simple medication. The hospitals are extremely underfunded. In fact, about 2,500 females die every year because we lack infrastructure for pregnant females with prenatal babies, right? So 2,000 females die. And the reason why they're dying is because the politicians, or actually, the reason why people are dying is because of two factors. It's because of sanctions and government mismanagement. The problem is that you have the government saying that, okay, it is sanctions that's causing all the problems. And then you have the people in the West media saying that it's government mismanagement causing all the problems, when in fact it is both. And people, these two sides want to point the blame at each other, but both of the policies are very detrimental to the civilization of the citizens of Zimbabwe, right? These people are basically using Zimbabweans as pawns on the chessboard to achieve political objectives or to achieve wealth for themselves. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if you want to get into the mismanagement and sanctions, we can get into that and explain why and how bad and why Bitcoin will solve kind of that problem itself.
Yeah, I know this part of dictatorship, right? I mean, I don't know. Is the what do you think? I mean, is it corrupt by design? I mean, that's why they like large corporation in the first world country don't invest a lot in Africa. But I don't know what happens in there. Do you think it's all by design? The structural that's make the gaps wider and wider.
Okay, yeah. So I believe this is okay. So the first is we'll talk about government mismanagement. Okay, government mismanagement, like I said, the government owns 107 companies, right? These companies lose $300 million every year. They owe about $3 billion. They owe about $3 billion. If you look at individual sectors, like ZESA, these guys like in electricity. So ZESA is the power company. They looted about $60 million, right? Which was made for infrastructure, because right now we're extremely overcapacitated. Our transformers are breaking down. We're getting cable thefts almost every month. People are actually stealing your cables. So I went just these last 5 months, we went with no power because our cables got stolen, and the power company couldn't afford to repair to replace the copper cables. Right? People are stealing because of lack of jobs, and then the ZESA company can't afford to improve the infrastructure, right? So that's ZESA. If you look at agriculture, the agriculture point of view, in Zimbabwe we have this policy called command agriculture. So command agriculture, they basically manage. The government owns maize, soybeans, and wheat. No private sector can sell that. You're not allowed to, even me as a private individual, I can't sell any of that. Command agriculture stole about $10 billion worth of cash. We just went missing. Okay. So again, government mismanagement. You look at the media, for example, there's only one TV station. And what's really sad is that Zimbabwe was one of the first countries in Africa to have a TV stations and TVs. But now we only still have one TV station. We have about no actors. We have one radio station. Infrastructure is completely bankrupt. We don't, that media station, if you compare it to South Africa, our next door neighbor, for example, they have about 22 TV stations. They own DSTV, and DSTV supplies, I mean, I think it's TV for almost the whole of Africa, you know. They have musicians, artists, actors, all these jobs that were lost because Zimbabwe nationalized the TV industry so that no one can talk against the government. Our media in terms of newspapers, I think it was the paper was called Daily News. When they published an article against the government, the next day the headquarters was bombed. You know, if you talk about freedom of speech, you know that quotes they say you can have I can guarantee you freedom of speech, but I cannot guarantee you freedom after speech. You know, and that's Zimbabwe. Journalists are in prisons. You know, journalists are killed and tortured. You know, just yesterday, the political party opposition Tendai Biti, these ZANU-PF thugs broke into his house. They broke into his house with X's, and the security guard was X'd in his head, in his arms. He was bleeding everywhere. You know, you just can't talk against the government. Whenever we hold rallies, for example, you know, the political party sends police to water spray them with thing, to beat them with bats and sticks. You know what I mean? So that's the political point of view, right? Our mining sector, for example, $1.5 billion is looted every day worth of gold, every year worth of gold, right? $1.5 billion. We lose $2.2 billion on average to corruption. We lose $1 billion to paying the top ships. Okay, and the reason why I talk about this $1 billion is because remember when I said that 2,500 females die every year because of lack of infrastructure in the hospitals. If we took $1 billion that we paid these big top ships, we could fully furnish our hospitals for 24 years. Right? For 24 years, we could have improved that. But because of government mismanagement, that's not happening. Because people only care about themselves instead of other individuals. So first, you can say government mismanagement is responsible for the demise of Zimbabwe. Truly, that is, right? And then I want to talk about sanctions, and let's get into sanctions. So firstly, the reason why we have sanctions is because of human rights violations, right? Lack of freedom of speech, right? We have when the West, when Europe sends is people to watch the votes counts, they were chased away, right? Lack of democracy. And remember, when I also talk about human rights violations, that whenever a country is unwilling or unable to protect its citizens under international law, other countries have the responsibility or obligation to step in. And how do they step in? Well, the first form of stepping in is through sanctions. The problem is that sanctions aren't effective, right? We've had sanctions for 20 years, and in that 20 years, we're still seeing human rights violations. We still don't have a democratic process. We're still under the same regime. But the negative effects of sanctions are being severely felt, right? So where do these negative effects actually come from? And it comes from stemming from, it comes from understanding that, firstly, the reason why sometimes these sanctions are imposed also is because they want the individuals to suffer. Sanctions are not, whenever they say targeted sanctions, it's not true. They just say that for PR. The United States, the sanctions are targeted. They say that we're targeting 159 companies. Targeting 159 individuals under ZANU-PF and 60 companies that are controlled by ZANU-PF, right? But that's not actually true. In fact, when these guys say target the sanctions, and when the United States poses sanctions through the SWIFT system, what happens is what we call SWIFT sanction, so SWIFT screening. So when we talk about SWIFT screening, basically what happens is that the United States says, okay, we're gonna sanction Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe so let's say I'm Zimbabwe, like this is Zimbabwe right now, and SWIFT basically does this. You know, SWIFT is basically just an information system of saying transferring details of transactions, basically. So what SWIFT does is that Zimbabweans can send messages outside, but as soon as you send messages outside to international banks or international businesses, SWIFT gets notified, and then it instantly blocks the transactions and says, because you're in Zimbabwe, we cannot offer you any financial services. We're not offering you any financial capital. Even me as a Zimbabwean right now, if I want to buy Bitcoin, I can't. I can't register in an exchange. If I want to buy international shares, like maybe if I want to buy Apple shares, for example, I can't buy Apple shares, right? So even if I wanted to obtain wealth by buying assets, and that's the only way of obtaining wealth, I'm cut off, right? I can't buy wealth. I can't engage in the financial sector. That's 50 million individuals that can't engage in the financial sector. Yet these guys are claiming that these sanctions are targeted. They aren't. And then let's also talk about the other effects of sanctions. So sanctions come in three forms. They first come through supply disruptions, trade blocks, embargoes, and financial restrictions. So we've covered financial restrictions. But so supply chain disruptions is where they will limit the amount of supplies. So limit the amount of supplies that Zimbabwe can deal with. No company in the United States can actually engage in business and people in Zimbabwe, right? And when you cut off the amount of suppliers that can actually provide these services, right, you kind of cause inflation because we have more demand than there is supply. No country that's under sanctions, every country that's under sanction is experiencing triple-digit to double-digit inflation, right? That's very bad, and that's one of the reasons was because of supply chain disruptions. Secondly, through trade blocks, right? Since these trade blocks, since these supply chains that have been disrupted again. If I want to ship something from China, for example, like I remember I wanted to ship in this gym equipment. It cost me, the gym equipment only cost about $100, but it cost me $1,000 to bring it into Zimbabwe. That's 10 times the cost of just bringing it in. Whereas my uncle who was in America could bring it in for like $20, which is which is significant, which is like really bad, right?
Yeah.
And then go back to financial restrictions. So again, so what happens is first you have the SWIFT system, and then the United States also goes to the World Bank and the IMF and says you cannot give Zimbabwe money, and you cannot forgive Zimbabwe's debts. So you cut off the supply and you isolate this economy from the world, right? And you expect that to have no effects on the citizens of Zimbabwe. And you say that's targeted, but no, it's not, of course, right?
Yeah.
So when you cut these individuals from the financial services, basically, right? And you cut off them from credit lines. You also, but then you can kind of say you also cut them off from foreign investments. What happens is that whenever you're in sanctions, the international community says, okay, because of sanctions, we're going to follow America's footsteps, right? They're going to say that you guys like property. I mean, we also do that's also kind of our flaw. I can't blame that in the United States. But whenever there's sanctions, foreign invest, you can't get out. People won't invest in your thing, in your company. I mean, in your country. Banks won't deal with any Zimbabwean with any Zimbabwean company because the America will fine you. CBZ, for example, is a bank in Zimbabwe, as the international bank, and they will find about $385 million for dealing with someone who's in Zimbabwe who was sanctioned. So what they do is they call what we call over de-risking, basically, where they say that it's too risky to do any business in Zimbabwe. So let's just cut off the entire Zimbabwe economy and let's not provide any financial services to Zimbabwe. So even citizens like me get affected, even though I've done nothing wrong, etc. So when you look at it, both government mismanagement and sanctions contribute to the demise to destruction of Zimbabwe itself, and that's it. I mean, and the thing about sanctions also, like I believe also like whenever these people, like if you look at Russia, for example, I'm also very empathetic because I know what happens, what's going to happen to the people of through these sanctions. Under sanctions, or like in war, let me explain this. In warfare, destruction of healthcare systems, of schools, and starvation is prohibited. You're not allowed to do that in warfare.
Yeah,
right?
it's
You're not allowed to take it.
Yeah.
But through sanctions, that's okay, because when you impose sanctions, especially United States-based sanctions, where you cut off, you stop the access for getting foreign currency, right? Which creates this equilibrium with the local currency, which creates inflation in the local currency. You make it too expensive for the locals to buy medication, to afford education, to afford food, right? And that's the effect of sanctions, unintended effects of sanctions or intended effects of sanctions. So something that's prohibited in war is allowed through sanctions, and that's not okay. So yeah, and the only reason why that's possible is because, again, 70% of the world's trade is done in the United States dollar, right? And there is no alternative banking system. So when the United States says, let's cut off the entire economy of Zimbabwe, people have no other alternative to choose, and that's why Bitcoin is very important, because Bitcoin is an alternative banking system. Bitcoin, you can't discriminate who gets money or not, right? And yeah, that's basically it. So it's both a combination of governance management and sanctions.
Yes, exactly. I mean, especially during like this kind of situation where there is a war and your bank sanction you from, yeah, basically getting your money back, right? You cannot do that. Yeah, that's why it's kind of unfair. And Bitcoin is the hope for some people. And yeah, this your example before is just shows that how yeah powerful Bitcoin is, to the world. And even the IMF begging for El Salvador to not adopting Bitcoin, but it's only a matter of time Bitcoin is getting adopted. They don't understand yet. Maybe they understand and they want to move in shady way, and that's why I understand your point of view before, because I don't know, maybe in Africa it's kind of structural and by design, I don't know. But it's only a matter of time that Bitcoin getting much adopted, and I mean, since you're like sanctioned everywhere in there, how you get access to Bitcoin and access to the information? Because some people in there, I know in Nigeria is the one of those country who use Bitcoin a lot in there. But what about your country? I mean, how do you get access to all of this?
Yeah, so access to Bitcoin, like I said, because we can't get access to any financial services, it's very, very difficult. It's actually it's one of the most difficult processes that I kind of suffer from for myself. So basically, there are three ways you can get you can buy Bitcoin. The first way is through WhatsApp groups, right? So you have to you have to find a WhatsApp group of individuals, and then when you're inside the WhatsApp group and you want to buy or sell your Bitcoin, you say, okay, you send a text message like, listen, I'm looking for someone who can buy my Bitcoin, or I'm looking to sell my Bitcoin. Can we meet in person so that the transaction is actually done in person? Now the problem is I don't live in the capital city, and everyone who actually does these transactions are often in the capital city, right? So WhatsApp isn't actually a good option. In fact, I mean, even when it comes to the quantity, imagine if I wanted to sell $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, I have to find someone in that WhatsApp group who wants $5,000 worth of Bitcoin, and that's very unlikely. Even just $100, remember, people in Zimbabwe don't have disposable income. They have like zero disposable income. In fact, their wages don't cover the cost of living, right? Yeah. So WhatsApp is just okay. I wouldn't really advise that one. The second one I heard was Cryptogram. Again, it's like an exchange where you find people who are willing to sell their Bitcoin for a specific markup, right? And the method that I use is that I'll log onto an application like BlockFi or Celsius or Gemini, for example, right? But what I do is that I download a VPN. You download a VPN and then you lie about who your location. You say you're in South Africa, and then you also lie about your address. You lie about your phone number, and then you hope they don't catch you. Every day, like I wake up hoping that these guys don't realize I'm a Zimbabwean and they freeze my bank account, which is kind of thing. So you lie your location and everything, and then you create that account, like a BlockFi account. Then the next step is that you have to send your money outside of Zimbabwe into a foreign country, and then from that foreign country, that person can take that money and then deposit it into your accounts, which will allow you to buy the exchange. But it's a really long process. And again, it's the only reason why I can do that is because I know people outside of Zimbabwe that I can actually trust. If you don't know people outside of Zimbabwe, it's gonna be kind of challenging for you, right? So it is a problem. But I was talking to one of these Bitcoiners, and they were talking about how a solution to this can be that you start Bitcoin mining, right? If you Bitcoin mining, you're actually creating a supply in the economy, right?
Yes.
You're actually producing in your country. And the nice thing about that is that Zimbabwe has one of the cheapest forms of energy, right? We charge 1 cent per kilowatt. If you want to compare that, so United States is around, I think, 11 cents per kilowatt. South Africa, our neighbor, is 14 cents a kilowatt. Botswana, our neighbor, is about 12 cents a kilowatt. So the United States is like 11 times more expensive than us. South Africa, 14 times more expensive than us. We have one of the cheapest forms of electricity. So I believe Bitcoin mining may be a solution to be able to actually create supply in Zimbabwe without having to go into to rely on exchanges. The only challenge might be is that when you want to sell your Bitcoin, that's going to be a challenge. So the problem with that is that now I can't go like every other person in South Africa or any other country and try to encourage vendors or small businesses to adopt Bitcoin, because if I get one business to adopt Bitcoin, for example, and they need to now pay their bills, how do they cash out their Bitcoin and then pay their bills, which requires fiat? It's almost impossible, right? So it is a big hinder on Bitcoin's adoption in Zimbabwe. And that's why adoption in Zimbabwe is I believe it's very slow, right? I believe it's very slow compared to other countries. Like as a Zimbabwean right now, I only know a few people in Zimbabwe who own Bitcoin. Very, very few people who own Bitcoin. So yeah, it's very challenging. And the reason why it's so challenging is again because of sanctions. Sanctions isn't allowing Zimbabweans access to exchanges so that they can convert their Bitcoin into fiat currencies and then it'd be a viable system. So again, it's not just it's sanctions itself.
Yeah, I mean, like since you mentioned it before, right? I mean, it's because of sanction. That's why the adoption is quite slow in there, right? I mean, I don't know. In Nigeria, it's even though the sanction is there as well, but the people are trying to figure out the other way, right, to adopt Bitcoin. But I don't know. Is the case in there? The sanction is happening there because of you can do that because of the sanction.
Or like I believe I don't know if Nigeria is actually under sanctions. I believe they should be under sanctions because they also abuse and there's also like a lot of human rights violations. They like massive, and there is no rule of law. But I don't believe they're actually under the same sanctions that we are in Zimbabwe, because they can, like, I know my friends in Nigeria who I work with, because I actually have this project, a Bitcoin project. I don't know if I can tell you about it.
Yeah.
The project is basically, in Zimbabwe, again, we're only earning about $10 a day or $100 or $40. You don't earn that much. Yeah, so now what I did was that I felt like an application called Celsius. Celsius pays you $100 for every $400 you deposit for every new account. So what I now did was, because I have a lot of savings in Bitcoin, I went to my friends. I'm like, you guys open accounts, then I deposit money to your accounts, and then we share the $100 reward. So I went from earning about $10 a month to earning around $400 to $800, depending on the price of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin allowed me to achieve a massive amount of capital due to that. Like, I was able to make way more money than I could ever make in Zimbabwe itself because of Bitcoin. So I mean, yeah. So it's kind of a advantage from that point of view. But the reason I'm telling you the story is because the people I'm working with who can create these accounts are in Nigeria. And yeah, so the only reason that's possible is because they don't suffer sanctions like Zimbabwe, because I couldn't be able to create these accounts being in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, I know maybe there's challenges in adoption, but at the same time, there's also the opportunity, right? When you have like less adoption, you try to like have unfair advantage, right, before anyone else. And then once the technology getting adopted, you are the one getting rewarded, right? Because you know this unfair advantage very early, and that's why in other countries such as China, who they find potential in Africa. They invest a lot in Africa. For example, have you ever the news of Tanzania and China? When Tanzania don't, cannot pay off the debt, and then China, acquire their airport, the asset. That's why it's kind of opportunity, but at the same time, people who like have the tunnel vision who only capture that unfair advantage in Africa.
It's kind of interesting because one, I believe that, I mean, a lot of people always get mad that China isn't just giving people money. Well, that's not how free markets should work. You shouldn't just give people money, right? It always should be a loan, right? That's one part I don't disagree with. But I believe that China, I think China is printing out as much money as they possibly can because they know money doesn't equal wealth. So they'll print out this money, they'll loan it to people in countries in Africa, knowing full well that these countries can't pay back, right? And when these countries default, they take certain assets, right? I remember they take like certain ports, for example, or I remember they even wanted to take like an airport this one time, right? So I think China is kind of a smart move for them to give money, this fiat money that they can easily just print around, give it to a loan, and when these countries default, China actually gets proper wealth from it. But if these countries are able to pay it back, I mean, it's okay. I don't know if that's a bad that's really a bad thing. I don't know. I'm also kind of confused.
It's a free market.
Is that?
It's a free market. Yeah, you cannot judge it's a bad thing, it's a good thing. Yeah, it's a free market, right? It's a capitalism. Yeah.
Okay. It's a free market. It is a free market. But the only challenge I think is that China's giving this money to governments that have a good track record of, you know what I mean? Like I believe we got $60 million. Remember that $60 million that we got for power? We got the $60 million for power. As soon as we got it, these guys, the president gave it to one of his sons or nieces or whatever, his connections, and the person took over the money. So you're giving it you're not giving it to the best people. It's not really the free market. You're not giving it to people of ability. You're giving it to the men of need. And that's the challenge because so I think it's a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing that America isn't investing in Zimbabwe because we don't have a track record of managing money good, right? And we also have a good track record of poor property rights. In Zimbabwe, if you start a company in Zimbabwe, what used to happen is that the government would just come in and take 51% of the thing of your company, right? And you're just thinking, and that's one example of what you call it, poor property rights, right? So I believe that China's giving it to governments that have a poor track record of actually being able to allocate capital efficiently, and they know that even if these guys who are going to do it, who are going to fail, they're still going to get these important assets from these countries, And I don't know. It's a bit tricky. I wouldn't. Yes, well, it's a free market, I guess. We'll see how it works. Because I mean, giving us, no one else is going to invest in Zimbabwe, for example, right? No one else would, and we kind of getting what we deserve. We're getting what we deserve, basically.
Yeah, that's why Bitcoin is hope, for some people, and including myself, because we never know, right? The government and the countries can go bankrupt someday. You have to have a lifeboat, right? Bitcoin is a lifeboat, so I understand your point of view, and then maybe yeah, it's not only China. You know, many countries invest in Africa a lot these days because they find the potential of the country, and that's why I think it's the way to go country. I mean, yeah, since you like mentioned all of this, I just wanna hear from your point of view. I mean, like there is stock market in there, right? And stock market is only going up 100%. But the ordinary people cannot access the stock market. Is that correct or not?
Sorry, could you repeat that question? Sorry.
There is a stock market in there, right? Stock market.
Yes. This is there is the
yeah, stock
Zimbabwean
market is going to the roof, but you cannot access the stock market, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't even bother looking into the Zimbabwean stock market. When I started investing, I went straight to looking in the United States because remember, because I mean, as an investor, you're an entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur's task is to firstly maximize profit while minimizing risk, right?
Yes.
So, if you're a proper entrepreneur, you're not going to look at a country that's one is when it comes to the credit rating score is C, right? C means it is junk, it's a junk investment, right? C also means that I think triple C, sorry. Triple C also means that what you call it, they cannot get loans less than for interest less than 50%, right? So whenever they have to borrow to expand their companies, they're borrowing at expensive. They're borrowing at expensive capital. They're borrowing expensive capital, right? Two, and not even when you look at like the credit score of Zimbabwe, but also look at the property rights. You know, like I said, how what you call it, this company, the government can come in and just demand 51% of your thing of your business. So you also like property rights. Like the political what you call it, the political factors are never what can I say, are never really known, right? And then the second point why you wouldn't even look at Zimbabwe stock market is that remember we're also under sanctions. So again, when it comes to foreign investments, not a lot of people invest in Zimbabwe. Again, so it's not really it's too risky, even for someone who's in Zimbabwe. You rather invest into American stocks or Canadian stocks or stocks outside of Zimbabwe, because they credit rating scores is AAA. They can borrow money at 2% easily. They're not subject to sanctions. They're not subject to political uncertainty. You know, so it's way too risky to invest into Zimbabwe. So yeah, I never even bothered looking at the Zimbabwe stock market, and also the cost of investing is also high, right? Like, you know, it's only in a few countries like America where you don't need minimum deposits, where whenever you're buying a share is free, you know. In Zimbabwe, I believe when I wanted to invest in Zimbabwe, the minimum deposit before you can start investing was $2,000, right? So it's pretty high for individuals and stuff. So yeah, I believe the regulatory environment isn't really too good for Zimbabwe. So I wouldn't really invest in Zimbabwe at all.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's the reason. Yeah, it's not you cannot invest in stock market in Zimbabwe. Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah. I understand, yeah, what's happening in a situation like that, you know, in Africa. Yeah, I cannot even imagine myself getting into this situation because I don't know. In Indonesia, it's quite fortunate to have this situation, but I don't know if I were you, maybe I cannot survive. You know, yeah, I salute you. Sometimes it's because the system sometimes is not. Perfect and it's not unfair for some people. Right? Yeah, I understand your situation. Yeah, before like it's been like an hour already. Maybe we can like have part two and on the other day. But I cannot. I mean, I would like to wrap this up. Before I would like to wrap this up. Do you have any specific Bitcoin price prediction? I mean, like it's just for fun, yeah. Do you have any like specific Bitcoin price prediction? Maybe 100K, 200K, yeah. What do you price tag with? Yeah, what's your price tag?
The price prediction.
Yeah, it's just for fun. Just for fun, yeah. It's just for fun, yeah. Only for yeah entertaining purposes, yeah.
Well, you know what? When I entered the market, I entered in 2022, right? And it was the beginning of COVID, the beginning of both demand and supply shocks. It was the beginning of quantitative easing, about four, I'm not sure. And I knew that by now interest rates were going up. So I really expected the market to be actually just going down. I believed everything was just going to be going down, in fact. So I think for this year, I still see that we can be like at least around 100K. I think we're going to be under 100K. I actually hope that we remain under 100K so that I can buy as much Bitcoin as I possibly can. But yeah. I think there's just too much political stability right now. And I think people, out of fear, especially with this world war, this war between Ukraine and Russia, and this inflation that's about to kick in, because oil is shooting up the rocks, right? If oil, when oil goes above 100, goes up to $150, for example, the cost of everything is also going to go up, right? And that's going to kind of tank. That's going to tank it's going to tank the market. So I believe Bitcoin actually follows the market, and then later on it goes shooting up. So I believe it's going to be around 100K. I think around 100K now, and then maybe 2023 you're going to see $200,000.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time, gradually and suddenly Bitcoin will hit 100K. Yeah, it's only a matter of time, whether it's this year or next year. It's just, yeah, we will, let's see, yeah, because it's inevitable, only one time, yeah. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Alex, for your time. Thank you for being here. Yeah, it means a lot to me for your sharing your experience and what happens in Africa. Yeah, maybe we can meet in person in Africa. I will let you know when I will come to your country. Yeah, I will share the link description. Yeah, guys, if you want to check it out about your Twitter, or you want to meet in person, yeah, you can. I can send share the link in the description. And thank you guys, and leave a like and subscribe to our channel, yeah, guys.